my 13-year-old twin boys, their summer camp in Maine closed for the summer, which was the source, I have to say, of much more sadness than school, in-person school being closed. So this is something that all families or many families are dealing with. How can a summer camp, or how could a summer camp operate safely in this environment, Jeff?
Well, first of all, I'm sure your children's summer camp was doing everything humanly possible, and these are decisions that every camp director has to make. I'm on calls every single week with Maine summer camps and other camp directors talking about how we could operate safely. I'm taking a more measured approach right now. I am taking things one step at a time. We are already pushing back our opening date from June 27th to July 11th. We've condensed our season to 5 weeks. I'm in touch with epidemiologists, infectious disease doctors, and we are creating protocols that we are sharing with our families. And we look at our parents as the ultimate decision maker. They are the partners here with us. So my goal is to do everything humanly possible to create a safe environment. We're changing our food service protocols. We've created a satellite health center facility. We've upped our nurses for up to 8 or 10 nurses, 2 doctors and residents. We're doing everything humanly possible to create that environment for kids this year.
And I think we can all agree that it would be so great for kids to get away right now. That's what makes it so tough. I mean, I think we'd like nothing more for them to have an experience in the woods with each other. Kids don't seem to get COVID-19, at least not as much or not as severely as adults, so that is a factor there. But Paul, on the other hand, camp is the antithesis of social distancing. It's like the complete opposite. You are in a cabin with 6 to 12 people. You're in a dining hall with a lot of people. You're at a campfire. You're at a waterfront. So how do you navigate nuts and bolts the day and social distance at the same time?
Good question, John. Thanks for having us. And I would echo the things that Jeff said. A little bit of addition to that, rather than trying to maintain the physical distancing of the children, which, as you pointed out, not quite possible with the way their normal behavior is, we will be using at our camps cohort distancing, which will keep the children in the smaller groups, like you described, rather than having them move from different adults for activities, for meals, for different things. They will be much more confined to a small number of adults, and then we will practice cohort distancing so that if there was any kind of an outbreak, it would be limited to a specific cohort and not to the rest of the camp.
And Paul, if you can, I know, again, with kids, there's not as much of a concern of them getting it, but they can pass it. What about the adults? What about the adults? There's no camp without adults.
Right. We want to safely and responsibly operate our camps, safely and responsibly decide whether they open. We've had a handful of camps choose for very specific reasons already not to open. A lot more decisions this week. But again, another natural part of how camps operate should help a lot with adults. We typically at a camp bring adults that are the staff on 10 to 14 days ahead of time. A policy change that will have those staff not leave campsite at all once they're there provides a natural quarantine on the front end of that. And then once the children are there, again, nobody leaving camp, no new people coming on to where the children are. You set up a natural isolation for them and from outside influence.
Jeff, it's so interesting what Paul is saying there. You create sort of a quarantine in and of itself at the camp itself. But I know logistically you have to think about a lot of different things. You were talking about eating. People are going to have to eat in ways, much like they will at school if they reopen in the fall. But also the drop off and pick up at camp when parents drop their kids off or pick them up at the end. Those could be some of the most dangerous moments.
So for us, John, I mean, you're talking to, a resident camp director here. So, to what Paul is saying, we're able to create a bubble in theory. And so when everybody arrives in camp, they're going to stay in camp, and there's no packages coming into camp, and there's no mail coming into camp. And our food service directors are safe serve trained, and we have protocols in place to get the food off the truck. The truck driver's not even getting out of the driver's seat when we take the food off the trucks. We're creating extra meals on a stagger system, like a school system, so we have fewer children in the dining room. We're on a few hundred acres, most of our summer camps that operate. And so we're in an opportunity where we can take a group of 50 children and split them up among.
All right, we seem to have lost Jess Kenningsberg there, but Jeff, our thanks to you. Paul, our thanks to you. I really do appreciate the work that both of you are doing. I know this is something the kids look forward to every year. If there's any way to make it work, I'm sure you will find a way to do it.